I'm absolutely a feminist, and I believe that labeling myself a Muslim feminist is an oxymoron because I think that they are synonymous with one another. So if I'm going to be a true practicing Muslim, then absolutely I need to be standing up for women's rights more than any freaking body. My name is Amani Al-Katatba, and I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of MuslimGirl.com. Pre 9/11, my childhood was a ton of fun. My parents had a store in the flea market in our community, and so I just remember growing up with a pack of Rugrats. Once 9/11 happened, it just changed everything forever. It kind of flipped our lives upside down. That flea market where my parents had their business, the other vendors actually all came together to launch a petition to kick out any of the Muslim businesses that were in the building. I lost, of course, a ton of friends who had parents that were against my family, against Muslims. That was the first time that I was called a racial slur. I was 9 years old. And from then on, I think that my family kind of started to live a very different life. I was 13 years old when my dad decided that he wanted to uproot our entire family that was born and raised in Jersey and just plop us into the Middle East. And they explained it to us like it was an adventure. We're gonna go back home, you're gonna learn a new language, encounter your culture, meet your family. I discovered that one of the reasons why they actually wanted to move us there was because they were scared that we would become victim to hate crimes here.
Hundreds of incidents of racial attacks and intolerance have been reported. This mosque in Texas was firebombed, while in Cleveland a man drove his car through the front door of one.
When I went to Jordan, that was the first time that I got to experience Islam through the eyes of the people who actually practiced it, void of any of the propagandized headlines that were forcing me to hide it from my peers in school. And I ended up falling in love with it. And for the first time in my life, I was overcome with so much pride for belonging to this people that I decided that I wanted to reclaim that identity that I was being forced to pull away from for so long. And that's when I decided that I wanted to wear a headscarf.
That's true, very true.
Actually,
My grandmother's generation, for example, they didn't really wear the headscarf. And the reason why is because today there is an attack on our identities. And for a lot of us, that pendulum swung back to putting scarves on our heads to preserve that. And I told myself that I was gonna keep it on my head when I came back to America because this would be my defiance in the face of Islamophobia. I started Muslim Girl because I was pissed off. So I did what any typical millennial would do, and that's jump on social media and talk about it.
Give it to me.
For us, it was important to showcase that Muslim women were multidimensional, that we are human beings just like anyone else. So we were covering things from modest fashion and beauty to what's going on in the world around us today. What's up, family? So I was crossing the street the other day. A man turned and asked me if I'm a part of ISIS. Like, what is with this? We catch a lot of heat for covering issues about the LGBTQ community, about homosexuality, about queerness. We have a very significant sex column on the website that links sexuality with spirituality in a very open way. I started dating recently because I'm 24, and in Arab years that means I'm practically expired. One of the first vlogs that I did was when I secretly taped my first Tinder date, which was very interesting for some people because they didn't even know that Muslim women went on Tinder dates, let alone tape them for a YouTube video. But it wasn't really a good date anyway, so I didn't mind that the guy got mad about it, you know? I told him that I enjoy going to the movies by myself sometimes, and he said that he looks at people by themselves at the movies as freaks. Next. We don't all practice Islam the same way. We don't all view the world in the same way. It seems kind of basic that we kind of have to keep reteaching people that, but unfortunately that's the point in our political climate that we're at right now.
Islam, to me, is the most feminist religion, right? We got equal rights well before the Europeans. We don't take our husbands' last names because we ain't their property.
I think that the way Yasmin really unpacked what Sharia is was truly a huge service for Australian society. If you want to have conversations about Muslims and Islam, then it should be Muslims that are the ones doing the talking. Every day, I hear about another Muslim woman that I know taking her headscarf off because she's too afraid of being victimized by a hate crime when she leaves her home. Even when we take the subway here in New York, we kind of take several steps away from the edge of the platform because we're afraid someone's gonna push us onto the tracks of an oncoming train. People are like, what? That stays in the back of your head? Yeah, it does, because it literally just happened a few years ago. I think that millennial Muslims are kind of fearless at this point. I think that we've been through things that prior generations just haven't had to go through with the events and the tragedies that have taken place during our time. And that fearlessness has evolved into us unapologetically forging new spaces for ourselves without having to compromise who we are. It makes me feel a little bit better knowing that if there is another generation of young Muslims that will have to go through what we went through under a Trump era, that at least they have us, and that we started building the institutions like Muslim Girl necessary to allow them to survive. In Arabic, my name, Amani, means dream come true. In Swahili, it means peace, and in Farsi, it means security. So dream, peace, security, 3 things that I need to always fight for. I think that the meaning of my name is absolutely fitting, and I didn't really realize that it would be a self-fulfilling prophecy until probably this moment.